2, 1. Go to earthsbrew.com and enter the promo code PhoneBooth for 10% off all orders at checkout. A great deal exclusive to Phone Booth Fighting listeners. Jonathan and Joe over there at Earth's Brew want to take care of you because they are fellow Phone Booth Fighting listeners just like yourself. Earth's Brew, a plant-based taste of Nirvana. All right, Frank, I tell you what, it has been it's been a very busy weekend for me. I know it's been a busy, I don't know how many days for you.
Camera's doing weird stuff again.
Yeah, I'm keeping an eye on it. As long as that counter keeps moving, we're okay. If anybody's listening to the audio-only feed of the show right now, we're having a few camera issues with the YouTube stream. But nothing uninterrupted, so feel free to jump over there and watch the video if you like. You may just hear us produce a little bit on the air while we're working it out. So you were over in Scotland for how many days?
Let's see. The family and I, we all met there.
Was it a week? Was it 5 days?
Sunday night, because I was in Kazakhstan, Almaty, for the ACB. I left on Wednesday, worked all the way through Saturday, and then Sunday I flew to Scotland, and then Jennifer and the kids Saturday flew from here to Scotland. We met up at the airport. Well, actually, it's kind of a funny story. They were supposed to get there about 5 hours before me, and so Corey had, my friend that invited us out there with his family and friends, had set up transportation for them. So I'm now in Amsterdam when my wife is taking off from Manchester to go to Aberdeen, which is it's like an hour flight, 50 minutes or something like that. So I'm sitting in the lounge at Amsterdam, and I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden, an hour goes by, no big deal. An hour and a half, I'm like, all right, maybe she didn't turn her phone on directly. There's more things to be concerned about besides checking in with your husband. Mm-hmm. She has all the kids with her. Britta's there helping her as much as she can, but and so it was about the 2 hour mark. I got a little of that upset. You think those thoughts. I think everybody every once in a while is like, well, what if something were to happen, the plane were to crash, or something that's very improbable statistically, but you can't help because it's your kids and your wife, to think for a second, well, what would happen if? Mm-hmm. So all of a sudden that thought starts striking in my brain, oh my God, I just, could you imagine? I'm not hearing nothing from them.
Can I just alleviate one concern real quick for you in this day and age? You would have an alert on your phone immediately, like a news alert. You would
think that. Okay, now, hold on.
Wouldn't you?
Now, you would think, and probably you're right, but as funny as it sounds, finally, I go up to the front. Hey, is there anything going on with the flight? I have their flight information. Mm-hmm. The girls in the lounge that work with the airport, they call up. No, there's nothing going on. I don't know what you mean. Everything's fine. I'm like, really? It's an hour flight. Now it's been 2 hours. I haven't heard from anybody. So finally the wife calls me, and at first I'm a little angry, dude, what the fuck? You know what I mean? You're not going to call me? She's all, they rerouted our flight. I'm like, what do you mean? She goes, there's a hole in the runway. Nobody can land in Aberdeen. So that Sunday, there's a hole in the long runway, and they have two of them, but instead of, they couldn't immediately shift over and they didn't know what was going on, they flew them into Edinburgh, Flybe, which then didn't give them any time to get any water or food, threw them on a coach for a 3-hour drive into Aberdeen. So obviously Ronan's a little upset. You think you're landing in 30 minutes, and all of a sudden you're told that, no, we got another 3 hours plus driving in the middle of the night at the end of a 24-hour basically travel day.
Yeah.
And so, so a little bit of stress. So then I went up and I asked the ladies about it. I'm like, hey, there's a hole in the runway. And they're like, no, what are you talking about? So I actually Googled, and there was already a news. I'm like, no, look. And they're calling up oh yeah, they're rerouting flights. I'm like, so is my flight going to get rerouted? We don't know. Watch the board. So I sit there for a little bit, and they're not saying that my flight's delayed. And I take off at 9:30 at night. And I'm sitting there looking, I'm like, what's going on? Am I going to get stuck here now? Because if they can't land, are they just not even going to load the plane? Should I start looking for accommodations, or am I going to sleep in the lounge? I don't mind. I sleep on the floor, kick my feet up, and I'm good, And so, sure enough, they called for me to board the plane. I'm like, what's going on? So then I'm trying to figure out what's happening. But through the phone, I was able to find out that they were using the shorter runway now and rerouting flights. And the few flights that they had rerouted, basically they're screwed out of luck because they didn't know what to do in the midst of having them come in. So instead of having them circle, they just, rerouted them. So that was kind of our little adventure. So basically, when they were supposed to be there 5 hours before me, I was there waiting with the driver for them as they pulled up in the coach. I'm like, hey.
That's crazy. I have heard of, flights getting canceled and you have to get on a different flight and all that kind of stuff. I have not often heard of just getting bussed to your location.
Yeah, they dropped him off in Edinburgh, which was still in Scotland at that point. Then, because that flight's such a short flight, you have people to commute back and forth. There was, there was some school teachers, people that might be spend the weekend in Manchester or traveling or whatever. And, it's like I said, it's basically like flying from Vegas to LA. It's a quick, short flight up and down. And so you would think, again, I didn't know what was going on. And even the girls at the airport, no one really had any information for you. So, I'm sure you're right. If a plane crashed, I'm thinking it'd be a big news item. It'd be alerts everywhere. But you would also think that if a hole's in the runway and it's diverting flights, that would also be probably some pretty, imminent information.
Yeah, it's still the kind of thing you've got to monitor, because while an actual disaster probably would have constituted an alert on your phone, your wife assaulting a gate agent probably wouldn't have. Yeah, that would take a little while.
So my wife almost did get arrested off the
what
plane.
Do you know? Yeah.
Because she sits there and she gets up and now everybody's upset and she's like, hey, this is bullshit, So the flight attendant on the Flybe hears my wife say, oh man, this is such bullshit. So she goes, well, you can't use that kind of language. She's all, I'm upset about the situation. What do you mean? I'm telling my friend, this sucks. This is bullshit, Now we got to, drive 3 hours. So the girl goes up to the front and Flybe, you need to teach your flight attendants how to have better etiquette, because at that point the flight attendant goes, this is not our fault. This is, a problem with the runway. It's the airport, which to me is a very moronic statement. Obviously the IQ of the flight attendant, not superb, because you're right. It's not your fault, but it is your problem because you deal with the airport. So even though that I know that you didn't go out there and dig a fucking hole in the runway.
Right.
I know that Flybe didn't crash a plane and create this hole, but because they're part of a service that's providing transportation, and now that an issue's occurred that's inconveniencing your guest, it would have been much more, I think, acceptable for her to go, look, we really apologize for the inconvenience. We understand that this is an issue. We're going to do everything we can to try to help the situation out. I mean, maybe that's because I'm an American and I know how customer service works, and it doesn't so much work in other areas. Well, at least with Flybe, you guys suck.
What is Flybe?
That is just a cheap... but the thing was...
Are they just like the Spirit Airlines of
Pretty
Europe?
much, but the problem is that Aberdeen's a small airport. There wasn't a lot of options.
Yeah,
I think there are 3 different airlines that actually go into Aberdeen. So at the time, I think we chose that one because of just, the layover period. It's like, all right, we can fly on a nice airplane and wait 4 or 5 hours, or we can fly on Flybe and only have to wait an hour or two. I'm like, it's a 45-minute flight. How bad can a plane be? But then now realizing, I'm like, well, then when you pay, you get what you pay for. When a situation occurred, again, like I'm sitting there going, and maybe I have a little bit of an advantage because I worked front desk and casinos and hotels when I first graduated high school here in Vegas. So I realized that, just like if a customer to walk up to me and go, hey, my bathroom's leaking.
Yeah.
I didn't do anything. It's like, well, no shit, Sherlock. I know you didn't walk into my bathroom and kick the fucking toilet in, but it's a problem. So you have to empathize with the guests.
Yeah.
I understand. I'm sorry for the inconvenience. What can I do to help try to, alleviate the issue?
And that's half of it too, is just making somebody who's stressed out feel like they're being heard. Even if for the moment you may not have the ultimate answer.
Yeah, no one really wants to hear tough shit. It's not our fault.
Yeah.
And basically that's what the flight attendant came up to. The thing, because she wanted to use the thing, this is not our fault. It's like, well, no shit, Sherlock. None of us thought it was your fault. Did you fucking tell your husband to go out there and dig a fucking hole? Like, we get it that it's not your fault. But to have that type of exchange baffled me. Like I'm sitting down and my wife's like, this is what happened. And then there was a couple school teachers, a couple that were behind her going, yeah, this is what happened. So then I'm like, because, sometimes I'm not going to lie. I know that Mrs. Muir can err on the side of aggressiveness. Oh, you want to come in?
Hold on 1 second.
I'm just saying, whose fault I know it wasn't? Mine.
Yes.
And the kids. That's whose fault it was not.
Right.
That's what I do know.
Yeah, and so again, no one wants to hear that it's no one's placing blame, but like you said, the first thing concern of customer service is empathizing with the guests, letting them know that they're being heard and understood, that there's a problem, and then being told that, we realize that, this is a problem at the airport. It's a safety issue. We'd rather go ahead and divert you guys to Edinburgh than take the chance of causing any kind of malfunction with the plane landing on an. I think that kind of dialogue, it's all about, maybe I'm a better ambassador than obviously the little flight, but I could go up to the front and explain things like, hey, we're all on the same team here. We realize this is a fucked up situation. Probably fucked up, not work out well. So I realize that this is a situation that's not, convenient, but we're going to get through this together, and we're going to try to help each other out. And, there's a way to go about shit.
Mrs. Mir has the most ingeniously simplistic way of shutting all this down that I witnessed not too long ago. Like when you're having all this kind of thing going on, like you were just very, there was a lot of verbiage involved in everything you just said, and she'll just look at him and go, no.
No, that's what she did. The lady started talking to us, and you can
let's role play. You do that.
I'll actually verbatim. Tell me not to use that kind of wordplay, and I'll tell you exactly what my wife said on the plane.
Okay, ma'am. We need you to not use that type of language.
Actually, this is better. Wait. Mrs. Mir, could you have a mic and come in here?
Okay, let's give. Hang on a second. Oh gosh, Travis. Okay.
Okay.
All right,
Can you hear me?
Yeah. There we go. She got Travis's mic. Okay. So what happens?
Ma'am, please, you cannot use that kind of language. Tell him what you said.
I said, please don't talk to me right now.
No. Yeah.
Don't speak to me.
Yeah.
I said, please don't speak to me.
And then the girl kept trying to.
I'm not talking to you. I'm
talk
not talking
to her,
you right now.
the flight attendant.
Yeah.
And then my wife notified her that, why are you still speaking to me?
Yeah, because then she kept talking, and I said, why are you still talking to me?
Yeah.
I told you I'm not talking to you. Because the kids are on the plane. I'm working. Look I'm doing so much better.
Yeah.
I said, just don't talk to me.
Yeah.
I'm going to say things that I don't mean. You're obviously not apologetic for the fact that me and my kids, who've been traveling for 28 hours, have to go drive 2.5 hours to Aberdeen. And then Aberdeen was still an hour from the castle. I'm with the kids. They're tired, so I'm also speaking for them. Well, then it was a 30-hour trip.
If anything like that happens in the future, just do me a favor. Let's try to have enough awareness so that once passengers start videotaping it, just work in references like, my husband has to tape his phone booth fighting podcast, okay? He has to get his podcast uploaded to phoneboothfighting.com. Yeah.
I will do that.
Yeah.
But Richard, are you talking about Disneyland?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You did get to see firsthand.
Yeah, there was an issue with some reservations and dinner, stuff like that, and it was screwing up our schedule. But it was great because...
That's the key,
yeah.
Richard. It's anything that screws up my schedule.
Yeah, no, I told you. You were in the right, but it's like this girl was trying to explain to her how things were going to go. Like, we're just going to move you to this time, and you'll just kind of be over in this corner. And she's like, no. No, it was great, and because she was so afraid, she kept going. But I didn't. She was like, no.
Yeah, no, that's not working.
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have to figure out a different plan.
Well,
and they did.
Yeah. Well, it's nice to see that the international community got a
but once we got there, it was an amazing experience.
Yeah. Yes, the castle.
The castle was a cool thing. It was built in like 1468. They started the building on it.
Yeah.
And most of it was torn down at this point. It was only one small section we actually got to stay in because the family that owned it, one of the ancestors squandered some of the finances, so their descendants weren't able to keep up the upkeep, so they had to sell it to their crown. Then later on, one of the descendants then made well on his family. They had enough money to buy it back and buy the lands. So it's basically, a retreat where they do weddings and different, like this was, an outing with the family, got to rent the whole castle out for the week. Butlers, chefs, it was a pretty cool experience, and then each morning they either had fishing or hunting set up, or then one day we got to visit a distillery, which was actually quite interesting because, find out how
I saw some pictures of this. This had you in, apparently you had packed one of Travis's construction crew orange vests. I saw you wearing that, and you were also wearing a kilt. And you were
picture.
Okay,
I like kilts.
And you were now. By the way, that was my first. So the whole family at one point was outfitted in the kilts, and I was going to ask, do they just keep a 3XL on standby? Over
Actually,
there?
I was surprised because usually, especially over in Europe,
yeah.
I can't go to the mall and buy a T-shirt because a 2X over there is like a medium over here. I mean, it really is. Like, I mean, it is like ridiculous.
Well,
like,
you can't buy one without looking like a douche, is what you're saying.
So I'm sitting there looking around like, holy shit, do they not have any big Europeans? Like, I mean, come on, man. Like, I watch strongman competition. All those, Norwegian and Scandinavian guys. Like, where the hell do they shop at? Even in Russia, you would think that Russia, like I could walk into a store, you're screwed if you're my size trying to buy something off the rack. I don't know where they buy their shit at, but the Russians that are my size, it's not where I'm going. So, so we went to the fitting because Corey's family ancestry is Scottish, and they had the whole, he wanted to do a big family photo of friends and everybody and coworker, and his employees and be all together, right? With the I forgot what's it called, the different color for his clan.
Oh, the plaid, or
but like whatever it's called something. The man, I don't remember. Anyways, we got fitted, and I walked in there, and like, believe it or not, the Scottish have a lot of big dudes. So I'm like, oh, all right, cool. So I was okay. They actually were able to. They didn't even bat an eye at it.
Wow. So you got lots of pictures doing that. You were telling me there were bagpipes involved.
Yeah, a couple nights. One of the a bagpiper came in and they played, and it's quite interesting, And then actually one of the other guys, his name was Shannon, played guitar, was in a band when he was younger. He's a finance guy, but that was his hobby. And a couple nights, whiskey ran deep. He was out there on the piano playing, and so he had a conversation, and there were certain songs that they were asking for. Obviously, they did all the traditional Highland Scottish songs, but then after a while, it was like, hey, could you do this? And he was able to do like an AC/DC song, but basically explained that the bagpipes are missing 3 of the notes. So it only has like, I don't know, is there 8 notes?
I don't know the intonation of a bagpipe.
Well, I guess there's 8 notes in music, right? Is that true?
Let's see. There's A, B, C, D, E, F, G. There's 7.
7? Okay. Yeah. So then this thing only has 5. So it's missing 2 or missing 3. They're having a conversation. It took about 20 minutes. I'm just trying to catch it. But, me being, musically illiterate as you could possibly be, I had no clue. But so I guess there's certain songs that the bagpipe can't emulate.
Oh, okay. Okay, gotcha. Interesting. I didn't know that. That's something I learned about. But and then now, how'd you end up at the distillery? What was that about?
Well, one of the days,
put you to work
Corey
over there.
Really likes whiskey, and the whole group. And actually, I got into drinking whiskey.
What?
I like it. You know what? Before, because here, the few people I've ever ordered whiskey with, they're always like, oh, you got to drink it neat. And then I went there, and then now you have the guy who actually is a, what do they call them? Something master who...
Like a brew master?
Yeah, basically
kind of
a brew master. And they're sitting there, and then, they serve it with water on the side. And you're actually supposed to put water inside your whiskey. Whiskey, when it first comes out of the barrel, is actually concentrated. So it's like, if you drink it neat, you're basically drinking a concentrated version of the whiskey that isn't the intention of how it's supposed to be.
So it's like your orange juice.
Right.
The thing comes out of the can, the frozen cylinder. You got to put water around
right.
that.
So you put water in and explain how it opens up and does all these things that actually people that go, oh, you got to drink it neat. That's not the traditional way of actually drinking it.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Well, so you had
and then stag hunting, which I know we could probably slide over real quick, but we went 4-wheeling, and that my back is killing me because there they don't go into a blind or a tree stand and bait or try to wait, near a watering path where that deer are going to come through. There they have the stags, and they do what's called stalking, which is you basically go on, and try to walk this thing down to get close enough to take a shot. And that is quite difficult. It's actually, they said that it was one of the hardest hunts that you can actually do in the hunting world. And we split up in groups. I was with Bella and the driver. They just had Toyota 4-wheelers, and so you'd see the stags miles away with binoculars. You position yourself to where when you get out, you're downwind of them. You know what I mean? So their scent's coming at you, and you're not having your scent carried towards them because it'll spook them. Then at that point, you got to walk through the highlands, and the grass there is the most unusual that I've ever experienced. Where it's like basically it looks like big. You know how like here, like I don't know what you call it, like a knot in the grass. You know what I'm talking about? Like in grass where it has like a little bump in fields and stuff. Like, have you ever been out in a field that's not well kept lawn, but they have the little like knots
in
the grass.
Yeah.
Well, imagine those knots being the size of bowling balls and bigger.
Yeah.
They call them baby heads there. They're huge. So trying to walk and have your footing and it's wet, you're constantly slipping and falling. Like, you'll be walking and you think you're okay for a second. And all of a sudden, next thing you know, you're hip deep in a mud hole, just flopping down. And then as you get closer to the stags, you have to start trying to crawl on your hands and knees because the way the hills roll, you don't want them to see your silhouette. So you're trying to stay low to the ground and walk. It was a 2.5 hour walk that was brutal. You know what I mean? Like I had one hell of a workout because basically it's like the equivalent of just walking on a Stairmaster for 2 hours because you have that. Now I know why they wear kilts. One of the reasons is it's easy to bring your legs up because I was sitting there like
doing that in a kilt. That just sounds like that would end up with like a lot of mosquito bites and stuff.
The wrong air.
Yeah. What about your genitalia?
Well, it was all nice and free and open.
Yeah.
I like that part. I actually enjoy the kilt.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, with the hunt, nobody's.
Hold on a second. What? Yeah, we don't wear underwear under the kilt.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no pants, so So I mean, I went traditional when I wore the kilt.
Yeah, but not during the hunting part of it.
No, I wore
a loincloth, probably.
Loincloth.
Yeah.
No. So but the thing is getting up on these stags is amazing. Like they are so fast. At one time we kind of surprised them. We got too close because the way that the lay of the land, we got to the point to where we're probably 80 yards when we finally were able to get to an angle where we'd have a clear shot at them. And by that point, Bella tried to set up because she was going to take the first shot, and they bolted. By the time we found them again with binoculars, I swear to God, it was like about a minute.
Travis. I don't want to look at hunting pictures. Sorry.
About a minute into it. Yeah. They're already about 2 miles away. Like their ability to just travel over the land was just is amazing.
Yeah. Now, isn't stag male?
Yeah, we only shoot the males. And also, too, it's just basically, I mean, if you don't do it, the workers have to be paid to go do it because there's too many of them and they destroy the territory and they'll actually start starving and feeding off and fighting. So it's actually inhumane just to not have life's about balance and about having a natural predator. The only thing is that humans now have eliminated most of the natural predators of the stag because those predators also would prey on us. So now you don't have a top of the food chain. And so now animals like deer, for example, here in the U.S., naturally being killed off by mountain lions and bears, so it keeps their herds manageable and healthy. Whereas we've killed off almost all the bears and mountain lions because they're obviously dangerous to us too. So now you have it to where like in areas where deer just overpopulate, Lyme disease, there's too crazy. So hunting in that aspect and using it for meat is actually very healthy, and we can step into that realm of being the top predator.
So it's kind of like when you mess with the process of natural selection, when you mess with the ecosystem, one spot in it and you're going to forever be playing catch up. Yeah, because you took out something that was that's what a lot of people don't understand about the ecosystem is if you pull out one little thing, it's like a house of cards.
And that's why too, like, with hunting tags and whatnot, in areas where the population of certain breeds of animals are not that healthy and strong, you're not allowed to hunt them, and that's also why we can't shoot the females, because obviously that would eliminate a whole breeding. You have 5 deer and one of them's, 2 of them are male. 3 of the females can be bred if you still just kill one male. The one male can still breed on. Whereas if you start killing the females, you're directly eliminating lineage.
But wasn't the idea that it's too overpopulated?
Right, but then they keep it within realms. And actually, there's certain times of the season where it is acceptable to shoot the females, but they do population control and understand, like, okay, where can we do to keep this manageable to where, again, it's healthy as far as the species is strong, but not at the same time over, hunted. There's just a balance. And that's why, again, it's regulated by the game and fishing, divisions to make sure that it's not being done improperly. Maybe you have people to step outside of it, and me, man, I don't condone shooting, lions and tigers and bears and shit. But but as far as deer, if you are going to eat meat, I think it's a good thing that all my children now have killed something and understand the concept of this was a life. Be respectful of it. Don't waste food.
Maybe they could launch an initiative to tranquilize them and then neuter them. while there, and then you see,
and then we'll pay more taxes for it.
It'd still be fun. You'd still get to shoot something. But then we're actually we're actually part of a long range solution to and maybe not stop with deer. I mean, I might advocate for that in certain areas of the country.
I'm okay with that too.
Tranquilize, spay and neuter, then catch and release.
I think they should have a system where if you have children by more fathers, and you're on the welfare system, I think we should be able to.
You're just out on the sidewalk one day, and all of a sudden, a couple of guys in kilts just tranquilize you,
dart in the neck, man.
Yeah. And then when you wake up, you don't know any different.
Yeah. Same thing on the reverse part. You know what I mean? If you're a male that has 3 different baby mamas, I think we need to go ahead and eliminate your ability to reproduce.
Well, I tell you what, I have
unless you're taking care of them.
Yeah.
If you are financially set and you just happen to have a harem and the government and I'm not paying taxes for your kids, then hey, all the more power to you. Have as many women as you want or as many husbands as you want.
You know what? I go one step farther than that, though. If you're doing that, I would advocate for the Brangelina rule, which is you're financially set, you can pay for as many kids as you can have and all that, but about every third or fourth one, I want you to adopt a third worlder. Yeah, and then you can go back to procreating. But it's sort of like when you're out drinking responsibly, there needs to be one water. So while you were doing that, Frank, I went to L.A. For the weekend. For a birthday celebration. So, and by the way, thank you, Travis. I think tweeted from our Phone Booth Fighting Twitter account. It was my birthday, so thanks, because I got nice birthday wishes from our listeners.
Yeah, we tried to call you while we were together, but you didn't answer.
Oh, that's okay. Well, thank you for I got your call, so thanks for calling. But my birthday was actually yesterday, so we went to L.A. for a couple of days to do some stuff, and the centerpiece of it was my current musical crush, Jason Isbell, was playing the Orpheum Theater Sunday night, which is where
you've been talking about that, like 3 months ago.
Yes, I've been planning on this for a long time. And he was playing at the Orpheum Theater, where you and I have seen the EBI tournaments that Eddie Bravo
Where'd you get
puts
to sit?
on. Fourth row center.
Okay,
yeah,
nice.
yeah. Just and you know what? It was so cool. I mean, we've seen the jiu-jitsu tournaments in there, but for a concert, it's just perfect. It's
because you really don't get acoustics with the jiu-jitsu tournament.
No, you don't really appreciate the music, right? But I was thinking about this. That theater was built in 1926, I think it was, when it opened. And, back then they had to rely more on architectural design for acoustics because they didn't have the amplification. So now that you've got modern technology, it sounds even better. But, those old theaters are intentionally designed for great acoustics. So it was just a fantastic place to see a musical performance. And what an interesting show. This was Sunday night. It was sold out. I mean, not a seat to be had, and they were scalping the tickets for like $500-600 and stuff. So fortunately, we had gotten ours when they went on sale. But we had some interesting celebrity sightings. We sat right by Kevin Bacon. He was there. Also, Colin Hanks was there. Tom Hanks' son. We saw him.
Does he do anything?
Yeah, actually, Kevin Bacon is a musician. You're talking about Colin Hanks?
Kevin Bacon, the actor. Right?
Well, yes, but he and his brother have a band called the Bacon Brothers.
Oh, really?
And they're really good. Yeah. They have a band, and then Colin Hanks.
Colin Hanks.
Yeah. He's become quite an accomplished actor in his own right. He was. Did you ever watch Dexter? He was one of the seasons. The young guy that was the serial killer with Edward James Olmos when he was on there. He was doing that, and he's got a musical interest himself. He made a pretty cool documentary a couple of years back about the rise and fall of Tower Records, that whole record store chain. So he's in tune to the music scene as well. And then Jason,
that was him.
Yeah, and then Jason Newsted was there, formerly of Metallica. And I did not know that Jason was into Jason Isbell the way he was, but apparently he's a fan just like me. He actually brought a bass, one of his basses that he was giving to the bass player in Jason Isbell's band. So that was pretty cool. So it was a great show, great performance. For our British listeners, the show was opened by a guy named Frank Turner and the Sleeping Souls, a British guy who's kind of like a British punk folk singer that was great. I'd never seen him live or anything, and really dug that. So we did that Sunday night. I did a couple other things that I thought you might find interesting. Saturday night, we went to the Comedy Store. We saw Joe Rogan. We saw Mark Maron back to back. And then
I like Mark Maron, too.
Yeah,
I like Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
He's real political. And
yeah, so here's what's interesting.
He's an alpha pussy, right?
Yes, yeah, that's right. Mark Maron describes himself as the alpha pussy, which is you've got the alpha male, but the alpha pussy is the guy who makes fun of the alpha male, who does the best job of cutting him down.
Yeah,
right?
He goes, but then this one goes, but you don't say something to him in his face. It's like, what do you mean, man? I'm over here saying it to you.
Yeah. So here's
not how this works.
Here's the interesting thing, the really unique experience of going to the Comedy Store. And that's a very famous comedy club. It's the one that's owned by Mitzi Shore, Pauly Shore's mom, and it's the one that in the 70s, I mean, everybody was on stage there. Richard Pryor, Jay Leno, David Letterman, Sam Kinison into the 80s. I mean, it's all the great comedians have played there. But here's what's interesting about it. When you go there and you're seeing names like Joe Rogan, like Mark Maron, they're not doing full sets, not like their full 1 hour set. Everybody is doing 15 minutes. And you are seeing them do what a lot of times is new material, like stuff they're kind of working out, you know. They haven't done it on tour yet. They definitely haven't done it on television or any part of a special. So it's pretty cool because you're getting to see some top-level guys, you know, you're getting to see how the material begins, you know, like how it comes to be. And so what you do is now here's the other weird thing about it too. When you go to a comedy club, normally you've got your, let's say, 3 comedians on the bill. You got your opener, you got your feature in the middle, and then you got your headliner. And the standard logic is that as it gets further down the bill, each comedian is going to get better or more accomplished. The headliner is booked in that spot for a reason. He's got more time than the opener, etc., right? Except, of course, when you come see me. I'm a very tough act to follow. But that's normally the way it works. Not at the Comedy Store. Because at the Comedy Store, they turn the room over one time a night. So there's like, I think, a 7 p.m. show and then a 10 p.m. show. We go to the 10 p.m. show. The first comic goes on at 10. The second comic, the last comic goes on about 12:30, 12:45 in the morning. But they're all in 15-minute increments. So it's like an arc. The top talent, which is going to be Mark Maron, Joe Rogan, Eliza Schlesinger was on there too. They're going to be in about the 10:30.
Eliza, that girl's funny as shit.
Yeah, no, she's very good.
Hilarious.
Yeah.
That's the one, the war paint.
Yeah.
She was so funny that I actually woke my wife up, made her watch it.
Yeah.
And then she started sending links to all her girlfriends to watch it.
Yeah, she's great too. So what they did, so I said, I'm sorry, I misspoke on the time. So if it's a 10 p.m. show, that arc, the top talent's going to be about 11, 11:15, 11:30. So the talent's going to kind of go like this, up, and then, I mean, not everybody's funny, but I'm just saying it's going to be lesser known toward the 12:30 slot is not where you want to be. You want to be, Rogan, Mark Maron, they're going to go on about 11 or so when the crowd is at its peak. So we go in and it's like $20 to get in. So when we got in there for Mark Maron, it's absolutely packed. Joe Rogan comes on, absolutely packed. Here's where it gets weird, is because it's a different set every 15 minutes and it's such a long night, it's not like a regular comedy show where everybody's in, sits down, and stays until the end of the show. After every comic, you're seeing the room move. Like, people actually get up and will leave while another comic is coming on, which a lot of times they end up to sort of try to relieve the tension, address the situation. Oh, come on, guys. Everybody got to get up and go all at once. They'll try to make some sort of joke about it or something. But you want to talk about a tough act to follow. I mean, if you've just had Eliza Schlesinger, Mark Maron, Joe Rogan come on in that order, now imagine being the next comic who is a funny person. I mean, you've definitely paid your dues to earn your spot in that club, but you're going to be the first in 3 that doesn't have like a national presence or a comedy special out there or whatever. It would be like in the in Bellator. Like, I mean, you got your feature bout, your co-main event, your main event, and then what if the guys coming on right after that had like 3-0 records,
almost
or something.
like your prelims.
Yeah, it'd be a tough act to follow. So that was pretty interesting to see it work that way, and then it was also interesting to see them work out new material, because you're eventually going to see that stuff on the stage or on Netflix, wherever their special is, but it won't be exactly like that. It'll be tuned, and you'll go, oh, I remember when we saw them work. Oh, they moved that part. They changed this part. That part's now like that. So that was interesting. All right. Then we did something, and I don't know for sure, but I think this may be of interest to you for when we go back, because we're going to be there. We'll all be there around Halloween weekend for there's the Disney Halloween party, and there's Day of the Dead at Hollywood Forever Cemetery and all that kind of stuff. So the phone booth fighting crew et al. Will be in the Hollywood area for Halloween weekend. So I was staying at a friend's house who lives right by Paramount Studios, and turns out just about a mile to Doomy's. And so Jennifer and I ate there twice, just walking to Doomy's. It was like I that place is so good.
It wouldn't have worked for me.
No, you wouldn't have enjoyed the walk?
I wouldn't have been able to walk back.
Oh, yeah.
I can't even sit in my chair when I'm there.
I'm telling you what, it actually helped that we did walk back. We commented about that. Like, it just kind of got the blood flowing and everything, because I know the first thing you want to do is just stretch out and crash after Doomy's.
Food coma.
Yeah, you've heard us sing those praises. But we're on our way, walking to our first of 2 visits to Doomy's, and I passed by a building that has a banner outside that says, Dearly Departed Tours. Now, this is, you hear of the Hollywood celebrity tours and all that kind of stuff. They drive around the bus. They show you stars' homes and stuff like that. This is a tour that's going to take you to famous Hollywood death sites. It's going to take you to, it's going to show you where all the Manson murders happen. It's going to take you to...
What about that shooting that I was sleeping at?
What, you did what?
Remember when I fell asleep, you left me there like, hey... Do you know who died here?
Oh, that one. Yes. Robert Blake and Bonnie Lee Bakley.
That's
yes,
right.
They'll take you to that one. Exactly.
Where I took a nap.
Yeah.
In the car.
Yeah. So we go in and we start talking to the guy who runs it. Now, for our British listeners, they're going to be interested in this. Do you know the name Graham Norton?
Nope.
Okay. He is a huge star in England. He's like, I don't know. He's I don't know if you would call him like their Jay Leno, or he's I guess a talk show host.
Oh, so Brian Lacey would know him.
Yeah, I mean, I looked him. He's like the like the 8th most influential entertainer in England or something like that. I mean, it's a huge name. Our British listeners are probably smiling right now because they're like, wow, these guys have no idea, but I have heard the name, so I know he's a big name. Well, the guy that runs this tour Graham Norton is openly gay, and the guy that owns this place was his boyfriend for like 5 years or something like that. Well, now he runs this tour, and they have like these buses that you get in. They take you all around. They even have different themes on different tours. So there's specifically a Manson tour. There is specifically a rock and roll tour where they're just taking you to where, Janis Joplin died, where Jim Morrison hung out, stuff like that, if you want to see the music side of things. Then they have a tour that's just specifically old Hollywood. Here's the sorry. Thanks, Jennifer. Here's the flyer for it. You can peruse that. So, first of all, interested? Does that sound interesting?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah? What do you think, Jennifer? Interesting? Yeah. So, and there's just a ton of these kind of sites and we went to the Hollywood Forever Cemetery.
Is there anything strange about Bela Lugosi's death?
He was Bela Lugosi, who played Dracula. was a heroin addict, and
oh, really?
Yeah, yep.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was an old school junkie, and he had fallen on hard times. Did you ever see the movie Ed Wood with Johnny Depp? He played a film director. It was in black and white.
I didn't see it, but I know the movie.
So that's a true story. Ed Wood was a guy who was known as making like these B-level horror movies. And he idolized people like Bela Lugosi. So he hired Bela Lugosi like in the final years of his life to be in these movies. But Bela Lugosi, lived in a kind of a small house and, didn't make a lot of money and things like that. So, that in and of itself, I guess, is part of it. Now, in addition to the tour, they have a museum. The museum is attached to the building where you leave for the tour and all that kind of stuff. They had in this museum the car that Jane Mansfield died in. Now, do you know the story of Jane Mansfield? Do you know who that was?
The blonde girl, right?
The blonde bombshell, made movies with Marilyn Monroe.
Oh, that's right. She got decapitated, right?
Well, not exactly. The actual decapitation part of it, I think, is an urban myth.
Oh, okay.
But close. Because this car, all right, so, I mean...
Did they run into the back of a truck or something?
Yes.
Okay.
And do you know that if you look at the back of any semi-truck now... There's that bar. There's it looks like a metal frame.
Yeah, so you can't get under it.
Exactly. That thing is called the Mansfield Bar. And it's there because of this accident. Because she was playing some dinner club in Biloxi, Mississippi. And after the show, was driving to New Orleans to do an early morning television show, I think. And the guy that was driving the car who worked for the club... he came around a curve, he was speeding, he got surprised by a truck that had slowed down, and they just went right underneath it. This car, let's see if there's something online there, Travis. There might be a picture of this car. This car, it was not a convertible, and the whole top of it had just been sheared. It's still attached, but it looked like the top of a convertible, when it's halfway raised before the top of it has gone into its little
See,
area.
It's a good thing that I always lay in the backseat of cars.
Yeah, right.
Any road trip, I would never be killed this way.
Well, here's what's crazy about it is there you go. There's one. Yeah. Hit. Yeah. This will show you what it did to the top of the car. Now, here's what's crazy, too, that I didn't know, was that in the car, you had Jane Mansfield, you had her boyfriend, who was, also her attorney or something like that, and then, see the whole top of that car? And then the kid that was driving was a 20-year-old kid that was driving the car. But in the back seat, you had her 3 kids. One of whom is...
Oh, no way.
Yeah, one of whom is Mariska Hargitay. You ever seen this? She's on... What is she on? SVU or something like that? Yeah. She's a successful modern-day actress. NYPD. There you go. But Jane Mansfield had 3 kids asleep in the back seat and 5 chihuahuas. And the kids, everybody just escaped with minor injuries. 3 people up front die. And they had just moved, I think it was a deal too, where they were saying they had just moved the kids, they'd stop for gas and move the kids from the front seat to the back seat, they were up in the front seat, And of course, this is, back when cars, there's no airbags.
Yeah, but as a parent, you wouldn't have it any other way.
Well, no.
Could you imagine? If you sit there and go, okay, you or them, it's obviously me.
Yeah.
Could you imagine if you would have switched seats with your kids and the opposite would have happened?
Yeah.
I'd just take care of their funerals, and then it's time to check out.
Yeah, but even back then, you think about it. Yeah, you put this in perspective because it's easy to sort of forget. No car seats, no nothing. Just loose kids rattling around. I remember
as a kid. Yeah, I'm not that much older, so I know you had to done it. And Jen, I remember laying in the top of the back seat of the car, whatever that shelf back there is. I used to hang out there. That was my spot until I got too big for it. You know what I mean? I looked like a cat just chilling up there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. You had that. You had the remember the you had the ashtrays and the armrest. That was another thing that went away too. Not really a safety feature.
Wow, I haven't seen that forever.
Yeah. So they had the actual.
It's weird how much things that we sit there and go,
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. They had the actual car in this museum, and like it was creepy. Like you still had like blood on the side of it.
On it. Like they cleaned it all off.
Yeah. I mean, it was heavy. I mean, it was like I don't know. It creeped me out. But the guy that owned it was definitely interested in coming on the show. So I thought maybe sometime we would get him on and talk about kind of the odd ways that you procure these kind of things, and then also the way that you construct these tours and put them together and things like that. So we did that, and then also we went to the Rainbow Grill, which is on Sunset. It's just a couple blocks down from the Comedy Store. Now this is interesting. So Jennifer and I went up into the Rainbow is I think it's been there since the 50s, is like a classic rock and roll hangout. And there's actually this booth that we went up into. You go upstairs and all this, and there's this little cavernous booth. You have to climb up this ladder to get into it. And it's called the Lair of the Hollywood Vampires. And that's what this sign is from. This was a drinking club in the 70s that was comprised of Alice Cooper, Keith Moon, who was the drummer in The Who, John Lennon and Ringo Starr from the Beatles, Mickey Dolenz, who was in the Monkees, and Harry Nilsson, who was a famous songwriter. And they would all hang out there, and this sign that's up here on our screen right now was actually put up back then, and it still sits there. So there's actually a band now that Alice Cooper has with Joe Perry from Aerosmith and Johnny Depp, and they call it the Hollywood Vampires, but it's named after this little drinking club that they had. Now, to give you an idea of how far back it goes, the president of the drinking club, Alice Cooper, has now been sober for decades. So that's how times change, and of course, a couple of those guys are no longer with us. But it was really interesting to. I mean, I had been there a number of times. Jennifer had never been before, so she was like way into all that. They've also, since the last time I was there, put up a statue of Lemmy in the bar. You know Lemmy from Motorhead?
Yes.
Now, there's a documentary about Lemmy. It's called Lemmy. I think it's on Netflix now and stuff like that if you've never seen it. It's very interesting because Lemmy was a guy you want to talk about a creature of habit. This guy, I mean, Motorhead was a world-renowned band, not getting a lot of commercial radio airplay, of course, but selling millions of records over the decades and a huge international presence. Lemmy lived in L.A. He lived in a small apartment right off the Sunset Strip right up until the day he died. It was packed full of stuff. Like, you would call it junk, but you'd probably be really fascinated by it because it was a lot of, like, World War II weaponry and things like that, like guns and swords and, kind of like being here. But there's a lot more square footage here to spread the weaponry collection out. This was a very small space. And he lived there, and then every day that he wasn't on tour, he would go to the Rainbow Grill, he would sit on the same bar stool and play the video poker machine obsessively, sort of like your Clash of Clans. And he did it for...
Hold on, I'm looking things up as you're talking.
He did it for so long.
Wikipedia.
And he did it for with such consistency that when he died, I guess it was last year he died. It seems like it's been about a year, maybe two now. They erected a full-size statue. To look up Lemmy statue, I bet there's a picture of it. They put it in the bar It's a full-size statue right next to the video poker machine that he always played every day, and his special bar stool is now enshrined. I mean, that's when you know you are a good customer to a bar. Yep, that's it.
My God, that's so funny.
I mean, this is that thing.
How did he die again?
He just, years of abuse to his body.
But he wasn't really that old, right?
Not that old. I think he was like very early 70. He might have been 70.
I thought he was even in his 60s.
He might have been late 60s. Yeah. But he was, I mean, he made no apologies about the fact that he, lived hard. But he was also one of those guys that, yes, he did live hard, but so consistently that you never really saw him appear drunk. You know what I mean? He was just one of those guys that was always a hard drinker he wasn't ever falling down drunk. That's actually one of the things that gets talked about a lot in the documentary. But this life-size statue of him encased in this marble now stands next to the bar stool that he always sat on and the video poker machine that yeah. So that's what we'll do for you. We'll have a life-size Frank Mir statue, and then right next to it, we'll just have Clash of Clans pulled up on your phone. We'll just have the phone sitting there in a little glass case next to the statue. So that's my idea of a good time. Exactly. 70, okay. He died at 70. But yeah, that's, people aren't really...
For a hard life, that's a pretty good life.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, what's his name? Ozzy Osbourne.
Yes.
How the hell is that guy still alive?
I know. Do you know we actually...
Keith Richards.
Yeah. Do you know we actually made a decision, Jennifer and I, based on that very thing you just pointed out about Ozzy Osbourne? Because Ozfest is coming at the beginning of November, and we had a choice. The one Ozfest is taking place out in right by, I guess it's like San Bernardino, like 3 hours from here at the Glen Helen, whatever they call that. Travis, you know what that's called, right? The campgrounds or whatever.
Amphitheater.
Yeah, out there.
Ozzy Osbourne's
68, yeah. So so Ozfest is Ozzy's playing one night there, and then the next night it's being headlined by Marilyn Manson and Rob Zombie. I've seen Ozzy more times than I can count, and I've seen Manson and Rob Zombie as well, but Jennifer had never seen any of them. And so we were talking about, well, should we go? Which day should we go? I mean, it's big festival lineups, and we're like, well, there's this lineup this day, this lineup. And we actually decided based on, I don't know how long Ozzy Osbourne's going to be around. Like,
when is it?
November 5th or 6th, whatever the Saturday is.
Hey, if I'm in town, would you want to go?
Whose daughter is that? That's Ozzy's daughter. Yeah. Yeah, she was the one who wasn't
I thought the daughter
show.
was really big.
Yeah, that's the oldest one. That's Amy. Yeah. If you're in town, let's load up the car and go. Yeah, that'll be fun. Yeah. It's a Saturday. It's either whatever November 5th, 6th, whatever that Saturday is. Yeah.
Nope, I'm in Sweden.
There you go. Boy, how many dreams get crushed these days based on that? Oh, you know what we should do? Nope. I'm in a country that ends with the word Stan.
Sweden this time. I'm not that bad.
Yeah. All right. Well, this has been a little interesting. Hey, you know what? I got something for you. We received a piece of mail that I think, Frank, at least to my knowledge, may be from our youngest podcast listener. So I'll let you open that up.
You're gonna make me feel like I gotta edit my
Yeah. Go ahead and tell everybody what this person's
Hunter Beddingsfield.
Okay. And what town does he live in?
Lives in Maple Valley, Washington.
All right. So Hunter has he's got a self-addressed stamped envelope there, and he sent. See what he sent. He's got a couple of pictures of Frank. He wanted to get signed here. And there's a little letter in there, so maybe you can read the letter. Okay. He's got a solo picture of Frank, and then a poster, a little picture of him, and then when he fought Bigfoot. What does it say there, Frank?
Dear Frank, my name is Hunter. Again, did I say Bradensfield? And I'm 15 years old and one of your biggest fans, in and out of the cage. I love the podcast. Keep up the great work with it. Also, I cannot wait for more. Wait for your next fight. It would mean so much to me if you could sign these photos and send them back. Thank you so much, Hunter B.
All right.
I appreciate it, yeah.
So we'll get Frank
15. Okay, I don't feel so bad. I can cuss around a 15-year-old.
Yeah. So who knows? We may have a listener. We may have a listener younger than that, but so far on record, 15-year-old Hunter is, to my knowledge, our youngest listener outside of your family.
You're telling brothel stories. And
I know.
I'm making fun of strippers.
It made me think. I was like, okay.
Is there an explicit thing on our thing to make sure people know? It's like, look,
there is.
You opened the door on this, you know?
That's right. No, there actually is. Yep.
Okay.
So, all right. Well, thanks for writing, Hunter, and we'll get
Absolutely.
the pictures signed for you and sent back. So, appreciate you spreading the word about the podcast. We're taping 2 today.
Yeah.
So we're going to space these a few days apart, but we're actually doing a double header today.
Take a lunch break.
Yep, we're going to take a lunch break and then
we'll run around and we'll come back.
Yep, and maybe talk some fights on our next episode, because we had to have one episode just to get caught up, just to tell travel stories and things like that, and man, I don't even know.
I do notice you do a much better job of not calling me now.
Of not calling you?
Yeah, because before we'll call and talk to each other. And we're like, oh, man, we got to save this for the podcast.
Oh, yeah.
How many times have we had that conversation?
Yes.
Like, oh, man. And so now it's like, I just noticed it's like, hey, how you doing? All right. You know, it's like, all right.
Well, and the problem...
We try not to fill each other in
Right.
on anything because we save it for here.
Well, that's true, and it's actually, I think that's exacerbated by the time gap, because it's like, if we're seeing each other every few days, we don't have to worry about that so much.
Yeah.
But when there's been longer gaps, it's like, well, wait a second, if we're not careful here, we'll still do a show. Yeah. You know, but that's the whole point of taping.
Last month and this
calls,
month
too.
were rough, just doing 3 shows with the ACB.
I know it has been.
Wow.
So we just got to ride out September here, and then you're around for more of October.
Yeah,
right?
in fact, actually, the rest of my schedule I was looking at, unless something happens and something gets thrown in there, I only have. Oh, it's October. There it goes.
Did you just remember something else?
Yeah. So for the most part, there's only 2 ACBs a month, and Mrs. Muir just reminded me that there might be a Monaco trip in there somewhere. So
Monaco.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Once I don't remember exactly what it's for. It's some kind of.
It's probably where you got to go drop off all the money. I think that's where people have like these bizarre like.
Tax.
Yeah,
shelter.
yeah.
No,
You have
there's actually a. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
There's a show there, an expo for. I think network television, sports, and whatnot. And
okay.
So the ACB's gonna go there, so I'm gonna go there also.
Oh wow! All right.
So, and the only thing I asked for was to bring the wife, because I'm pretty sure going to Monaco by myself wasn't gonna happen.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Well,
because it's a beautiful place. Like, not saying because you don't want me to go by myself, but because
you don't want to miss out on a Monaco
you know how many places
trip.
that I go to that I don't go check out because if I know that my wife wants to see those places.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I'm like, all right, someone's gonna take a picture. Like, you went to the zoo. I'm like, it was cool. So
yeah.
I got to pick my poisons. Like, all right, she doesn't care about this, so I can go to it.
Yeah, and then she doesn't clamor to go to Tajikistan. So then you're free to explore.
Yeah, you know what? In fact, actually, this last time when I was in Dushanbe, I was going around. It's such an old place, this old culture and stuff. And I'm like, hey, let's check this out. And I'm like, oh, babe, you're really going to like it. I got to bring you here. And I can just tell. It's like, I'm like, I guess I'm going by myself now.
And all right, we got to. And I'll tell you what, the world's been crazy too. We got all kinds of current events to catch up
More
on.
Hurricanes.
So, yep. So that's just at the UN. So we'll do that on our next episode. Frank, tell them about the Amazon banner at phoneboothfighting.com.
Well, hey, it's one of the easiest ways to support the show. You do any of your online purchases for your needs and wants, basically by going through the banner on our website on Phone Booth Fighting. You can now then make sure that any of those purchases, no additional cost to you. We get a small percentage back to us here at the show that we can use for getting better stuff.
That's it. We add in cameras and lights and decor and all that sort of thing, not to mention travel expenses, because we'll have somebody to take this show on the road. We're getting requests. People are asking us to come out and do live shows in different markets and things like that. We definitely want to be able to bring all that to you. So thank you for supporting the show that way. Also, the merch store is up at phoneboothfighting.com if you want to get official show merchandise, T-shirts, posters, etc. It's all there available for you as well. Get the podcast and iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher Radio, SoundCloud, or wherever podcasts are available. Please, as you've heard us mention before, if you're on our iTunes page, give us those 5 stars in the review section. That's tremendously helpful to us. And if you have a moment or two, write a favorable review. But the best thing you can do, the most important thing, the most valuable thing you can do is tell a friend about Phone Booth Fighting. That's how we're going to grow this thing. All right, Frank, tell them how they can follow us on social media.
On Facebook and Instagram, you can find us at Phone Booth Fighting. If you're on Snapchat or Twitter, just Phone Booth Fight.
For Frank Muir and Travis over there doing a great job producing, and Mrs. Muir sitting in on this episode, I'm Richard Hunter. We'll see you next time.